Activism, Bodyminds Reimagined, and I think Strategic Celibacy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read this entire book yet? Can you hear me?
Hello. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I said, have you read the entire book yet?
No, not the entire book. Not
Yeah,
yet.
I haven't. I
It's
started.
a lot of little pieces, so.
Mm-hmm. I like the format of it though. It was easy for me to get through coming out of Alice Walker, so it was a drag. It was a drag I wasn't expecting, especially the strategic celibacy part. And that made me really get into the book. So
you said that made you get into
I really got into it after reading our section, because I had kind of been reading it a little bit, but I really got into it after reading the two sections that we're talking about.
So I really enjoyed the first section. So the Bodyminds Reimagined, because it's something that I like always like. So I don't research it like consistently, but I've been in like I've planned conferences and been on conference committees for disability justice programming. So it was just interesting that came up, because we haven't done it in a while, and so maybe that's like a sign we need to do it. So
yeah, that section specifically was definitely I think it opened the door for a very important conversation. So I'm excited to get into the syllabus and talk about the enlightening aspects of body mind and the drag that I feel like came from me in strategic celibacy. So
okay,
let's see. The first question on our section of the syllabus. So she quotes when Sami Schalk says, "Tell me how you became who you are." Well, no, I'm sorry. When Brown asked Schalk to tell her how she became who she is and why she's so interested in bodies, and Bree asks us to reflect on our experiences with our bodies, and she asks, "Do we believe that we know our bodies, and how has our relationship with our bodies changed over time?" I don't know. This is a like a personal reflection while we're reading, or if this is a wide spread discussion topic. But I think just that question in and of itself, to kind of kick off the chapter, answering that as I read definitely gave me the ability to understand the context of this specific interview in a different way.
Well, yeah, and I think it so like it's asking a question that seems very personal, but like the entirety of the books thus far for me like has asked us to consider very personal things, and I think we are not often asked to do those things. Like these are things you just like keep to yourself, like
right.
Like, so
what does she call it, like hot and heavy homework or something like that?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so I think that, in thinking about that question specifically, and then, as she talked about, they began to go into, I think, polyamory more. So I was kind of having like a conflict. I was like, wait, I think this section really just had me in a place where I was trying to consider a lot of things, and I was trying to place my body in different scenarios, in different like realms of understanding. Because for one, I really appreciated the way that she was framing polyamory, because I think that, I know recently I've seen conversations of polyamory coming up, and people are finally not framing it as just this kind of arbitrary, meaningless relationship model, but understanding that there's intention and that there's purpose, and a lot of care that goes into polyamory, when it's not just, you know, a random dude saying, okay, well, let's just be polyamorous because I can't stop cheating or something like that. And that is actually a lot more to it. So the conversation around that is broadening. And I think that that was good. And just shifting away from the common perception of it was interesting. And I don't have a ton of knowledge about, like, I know kind of the sort of the ins and outs of polyamory, but it's still new for me. So it was really good to have this perspective.
Yeah. I don't know, like for me, again, I guess just because of the communities that I'm part of and the work that I do in a women's center, and I collaborate often with our Office of LGBTQA Affairs, and the person who directs that center is actually a really good friend, and she's researching polyamory. So like for her dissertation. And so I'm asked questions about it all the time. I also follow people on social media who are part of polyamorous communities, Black polyamorous communities, like in Oakland, California. And so it's not as far-fetched for me. I just feel like it, again, is touching upon topics that we are often not asked to talk about, or we're taught to like just shun and push over. Like that's some mess that is not, we don't do that. And it's like, actually we do. Like there are tons of people like within communities of color that do practice polyamory, or like, and like when we get to it, BDSM, like the actual components of it. So not necessarily the act, but like the ideas of like communication. And I think that's what she was trying to hone in on, is that like all of these things really mean like, one, being able to, going back to that first question, like being able to like understand your body and your needs and what you want. And then the other component is really like being able to communicate that outward, and then accept other people's communication as well, like with you. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like, so remember when we discussed the last book that we discussed together, I said I was like in a place where I was like exploring things spiritually, I think, like I said. So I'm also in a place, not necessarily like where I'm exploring things sexually, but like my body is actually considered now one that is disabled because of autoimmune diseases. And so like, I really like this chapter. That's why I dived into it. Like, okay. So like, because it was talking about all of those things together collectively, which are not usually put in conversation with each other. So yeah.
So there is, Bree does have some really good questions about like disability justice in this section. So the first few are kind of linked, so I'll kind of move down. And she says that Schalk speaks about her development as a queer Black feminist and how her Black feminist foundations have allowed her to delve into disability justice. Have you explored disability justice? And if so, what text do you enjoy?
So I'm trying to figure out. Oh, okay. So actually, like I have been doing research on the work of Audre Lorde, and really looking at the history of like concepts of disability within the text of Black women that we would normally not consider to be disability. So like she has this book called The Cancer Journals.
Yeah.
And she talks about disability within it. And it's like not something that she was necessarily born with, but it was due to like getting a disease, and then had to have a mastectomy, and then decided against like getting any further surgery to enhance the area or anything like that. And so she kind of embraced, you know, her new disability, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the disability was twofold as well, because it was like, one, she had this disease, this cancer that prevented her from doing certain things. And then she also then had this like body augmentation that not prevented, but like, you know, changed her body drastically.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot about like, so disability justice talks a lot about one, intersectionality. And so that's why I think it's important to like bring up Black women who are like dealing with and working through like disability, but also like it's like this so instead of seeing disability as this negative thing, it's like it's like a personal and social component. So the personal side is that you might be struggling, but you're also celebrating yourself for like who you are. So it's a form of identity that intersects with other forms of identity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just been reading Audre Lorde. I know that was a long response for.
No, that's actually the book that I was going to mention. That's really, I think, as far as like being as a text that I feel like directly centers disability justice. From my reading, I think that would be the only thing. I've read things where it's kind of been interwoven throughout the text, but as far as like a book where that was like the sole focus, I would just say Lord. But I follow a few disability justice like activists online. One specifically is a young Black girl who has cancer. I can't remember what type of cancer she has, but she I've been following her for a few years and more so been interacting with her work recently, but she's been very vocal about just her experience with it, but also about helping people to unlearn some ableist language, tendencies, beliefs. So it's definitely, which I think just as like anything goes, you know, able-bodied people, it's very easy to not be aware of the ways that we F up in the ways that we are open. And I think also with you mentioning your autoimmune disease, that is important because we think of disability in a certain way as well. We always think of it as just you know, the person in the wheelchair or something like that. But it goes so far, you know, beyond that. And I think so you mentioning that's a really good thing to keep in mind too. Because I think more often than not, you know, if we take those type of things into consideration, we'll be a lot more conscious of people around us who may not be able-bodied, because we're thinking of the disabled as those things that we can physically see, but it goes so far beyond that.
Yeah. So yeah, like invisible disabilities or illnesses are things that people often like, they're just like, oh, okay, like it's fine. But it's like, no, sis, I got ADA accommodations for this thing. So it is actually debilitating.
And we're in a pandemic, so I can only imagine, you know, what type of different things, you know, you had to adapt to and change because of that. So,
and then also something that I think it was mentioned a little bit in this chapter, but like an area of growth for disabilities justice is like the inclusion of like cognitively diverse, so mental diseases and illnesses and just mental diversity. Like, you don't really think of that, but anxiety is debilitating for a lot of people. It prevents them from doing things that others do freely. Depression, same thing, right? Like bipolar disorder, same thing. Schizophrenia, same thing. Like,
and I think even with you mentioning that, like those are things I deal with, but because it hasn't like, while it has hindered and it still hinders me in a lot of ways, I think sometimes I'm getting like this mental comparison, you know, it doesn't, you know, prohibit me from doing certain things. I'm like, okay, I don't consider myself to be disabled because of those things. But like you said, there is a large body of things that fall under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have a comment. She says, hi, you all. Glad to watch. I recently learned to use the term temporarily able to reflect that it's not permanent and can change over time. Okay.
Yeah, that's a big, because the reality is that anything can happen that can change your ability to function the way that you normally would function. So even like COVID, like right now, right? Like somebody gets COVID. So research shows that like if you get COVID and say you are at 100%, which really nobody is at, but like 100% of lung capacity. So once you recover, if you recover, once you recover from COVID, then you're functioning at 80% lung capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like,
yeah. The
so right
long-term
now
effects
I
of
can't
what
walk up the stairs, yeah, the way that I would, or go into certain settings the way that I normally would. So it's like these things can happen at any time. So yeah, it is temporarily able. Um, but yeah, I don't. That's, and then also something that struck me as, I guess, like perplexing is that since she is I don't know what's her first name, Sami Schalk, since she is like studying disability justice, like I was just wondering why she used disabled people instead of people who are disabled, because I know that there's a push within um disability communities or communities that are disabled of using people first or person first language.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering a lot about this chapter. It
Yeah,
was,
I thought about
and
it
then the fact
too.
that she's not so I guess she's temporarily able because she doesn't identify as someone with
I thought about that too because I've had a conversation recently with someone about slavery and saying people who are enslaved versus slaves or just, you know, those type of things. And just like you said, that person first, I guess, verbiage or whatever. So yeah, and she's not disabled. I think she just what does she identify as, like a fat black queer feminist?
yeah, and she said she was interested in it because like it put her privilege in question, so it challenged her
Yeah.
to think of her privilege in a different way, similar to how she thought white folks must feel when, you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then she also didn't practice, like she doesn't do research on BDSM, but then she was asked questions. So I don't know. But
That was a okay, yeah. So on to the BDSM because that's the next part of the syllabus. So let's see what Bree has. So BDSM is a topic of academic study and lived pleasurable experiences. Consider the following quote from Schalk. Quote, I enjoy BDSM play for how it allows me to turn off my brain in certain ways, which is hard to do as a person who is paid to think critically, to just be in my body, to experience pleasure in an uncomplicated way, and give myself over to that, to my partner. Can you relate to the sentiments about power, control, and release that Schalk shares here? And if so, what portions are relatable? Only thing that's coming to my mind is that I'm still actively, like, I guess, decolonizing my thoughts around a lot of things, including BDSM. Not that I have like negative thoughts towards it. I just, because I remember reading Color of Kink when I was in school, and I had quite a few friends who were very open about their experiences with BDSM. And I always felt like, you know, maybe I would delve into it, but I have been like, I don't know, like, you know, just kind of, I guess, afraid, hesitant, unclear. But I think power, the element of power and control is like a ongoing conversation when it comes to sexual pleasure, which kind of came up again in the next section on strategic celibacy. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily practice. I don't practice BDSM, but like I just I like just feel that for those who do, it is a means of reclaiming their power in intimate experiences. And so because it does focus heavily on um, communication, right? And there are like words used, safe words, and so I think like the major takeaway for me is that these are things that can be practiced. So this is this community that we like we're taught to like downplay and look down upon, but they have practices that we should be implementing because
right. So just like
there's always within these practices, and there's always communication. There's always the right to say no, and affirmatively, right? So and then an affirmative yes as well. So well, when it's done correctly. So I yeah. So I just feel like there are lessons that we can learn from the BDSM communities. But
you know, what you're saying, that kind of, it just makes me think about, I think that's one of the main things I got from this particular section, even with the discussion on polyamory, is that these relationship models or just concepts that are often villainized or you know, widely misunderstood are really the sites of understanding and the places that we should be looking to expand the aspects of our life. The things that we consider to be normal are lacking in a lot of ways, and it's those things that we have othered that really offer us the most room for growth and learning.
Yeah. And it makes me, I don't know, like I just wonder how we learn to, because nobody ever had a conversation with me about BDSM. So it's like, where do we learn that that's a bad thing, right? Like that and I think
you know,
maybe the media or
it's just that those ideas of sexual deviance, like anything that's not like missionary, heterosexual missionary is nasty and wrong. So anything outside of that is just like, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I appreciate these topics because of their complexity, but also because of like the lessons that we need to implement. If anything is going to change, then it's like instead of just like pushing something aside because you don't necessarily agree with it, perhaps see how it can improve your own perspective or practices. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, what prior understanding of polyamory and non-monogamy did you have before reading Pleasure Activism?
Well, so for me, like I said, I have like one of my closest co-workers and friends. Her dissertation project is on polyamory. But she is a white woman and she has not explored polyamorous communities of color. And so I try to get her to like explore those because I'm friends with several folks like on Facebook and Instagram that belong to polyamorous communities and relationships that are part of polyamorous relationships. And I used to have a coworker, a Black woman who since moved to California, who preferred polyamorous relationships over anything else. So, and I've, you know, like so on, what is it, MTV, they have those little
True Life.
programs that,
The True Life show.
I don't know if it's True Life. It's the thing that debunked, like it.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it tells you like, so it was like, I think it was monogamy debunked. And they talked about non-monogamous relationships and how we are, and I'm not saying I like believe in all of this, but like we are supposed to be non-monogamous, and monogamy is the reason why there's so much conflict, because we're trying to like limit ourselves and other people.
Yeah.
And then something that I've been doing as well is like really the past month is exploring non-attachment. And I think that is like deeply connected to ideas that are present within non-monogamy and polyamory, because in order to be in a polyamory polyamorous relationship, I think that you have to release control, like be able to do that well. So yeah.
You know, my partner told me one day, he was like, he said something like, if I was living another life, like in another life, I would want to be polyamorous. And I was like, why not this life? And I'm talking to my friends, they're like, yeah, why not this life? And ultimately, it really did. Oh, you good? Nicole, are you there? Okay. Here, let's see. Let's try this. We're back. Are you back? Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I lost my connection. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My internet over here.
Low frequency. Gotcha.
Spectrum.
But, oh, okay. But you know, I had a conversation with my friends after he told me that, and they were like, you know, what is it? Like, you know, what is it about him? What is it about right now that doesn't really entice him? You know, why isn't he wanting to seek a non-monogamous relationship? And it really just like when I asked him, not because I necessarily wanted to, but just because I was interested that he said that, and it really just boiled down to, he was like, I just don't want to be with other people in this life. It was interesting that he could identify that if this is another lifetime, or if he could start over, he would explore a polyamorous relationship. But because of like where we are in our relationship, I guess he's like, I'm not interested.
Yeah. I feel like it's difficult because, so even though I'm doing like the whole like researching the non-attachment and releasing control thing, like I just feel like I've just been surrounded by and socialized to believe that like one partner is just what you're supposed to do. And so, and I think some people are not ready to like first of all, they're not ready to question the things that they've been taught. So like, because it's easier to just maintain the status quo for a lot of people.
A lot of these things you have to relinquish control, and we ain't ready.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, I just feel like doing things differently is a risk, and people don't like to take risks. So, and yeah, I feel like we've been programmed to believe that, like you said earlier, like heterosexual monogamous relationships are what are supposed to be like the norm. And we know that heterosexual relationships are no longer the norm, right? Even though like people would like us to believe that to be so, but I just feel like non-monogamous relationships perhaps are also not the norm, but we don't research it, we don't look for it, and so perhaps they're there, but we're just like trying to act like they're not.
Even within relationships that on the outside that appear to be just, a monogamous couple, I have found that a lot of, regular old 2-parent households or whatever, those couples are starting to explore various relationship models that are serving them better than their monogamous relationship was. Somebody said,
I truly believe, like, so I have all these beliefs, but it's like still difficult for me to like get out of that mindset. But I truly believe that no one person can satisfy another person like holistically.
Yeah, we're too complex.
Yeah.
People, Someone said, I remember Jadena the rapper talking about polyamory and how men aren't cool with their women being that way, and how he tried to push himself to get comfortable with it, and that their skewed understanding of it came from their grandfather, who was a polygamist, and they thought it was something that only men were allowed to be.
Yeah. I do think when we think about polyamory, we're often taught that it is something men engage in, and it is something that also like African communities engage in, but it's the men, and that's not true. Like, that is not necessarily true. But I think
go ahead.
I just think if we're going to like move past, so like for men to accept polyamory as the norm within their relationships or among women, that would mean doing away with this notion that they like control women, like the woman is theirs, they possess, right? They own, there's ownership, just like, I mean, and I think that's what it is, like this ownership in this relationship. So how dare you like even consider loving someone else?
I think there are a lot of benefits for women in these. I mean, if you just look at the ways, like the statistics, and which I don't have those numbers off the top, but the statistics that come along with women that change our life expectancy and all these other things when we get married, I feel, I may be wrong, but it just would make sense to me that there are some benefits to these non-monogamous relationships for women. As opposed
I mean, well, it's not as much hostility, I believe, as it relates to the relationship component of things, like the let me just say intimate component of things. Now there might be issues with like financial matters and things like that, but like there's a whole aspect of control that I feel like weighs on in all relationships. Like, kind of like your body is somebody else's once you like engage in a relationship. I don't know. So I think it's and it's like increasing, like just like BDSM, increasing communication, which I believe like enhances life, period. If you can communicate about things and work through it together, then yeah. So
I'm not trying to get all in business, but how has the non-attachment aspect been for you? Has it benefited you? Like, and what pushed you to it? Like, what made you look into that more?
So sis, so like when I brought up anxiety, I was talking about me. So like I have like debilitating anxiety. So I've been on like I just was trying to find avenues to release anxiety's control on me. And so I felt like so I don't think it has like solved all of my problems, but one of my main sources of anxiety was surrounding my relationship. And it was, I feel like it would have led to the demise of that relationship. And so in order to prevent that from happening, but also in order for me to become healthy and heal, I started researching non-attachment. And because the whole thing related to non-attachment is this idea that like, that in life things are going to happen, and people can tell you all day like, I love you and I'm going to be here forever, and we know that they're not going to be here forever because anything can happen, right? Like they can die and they won't be here forever. So it is being okay with the uncertainty. And
so I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so like, I mean, it's just like recognizing. So even little things like for me were led to an unhealthy relationship. So like if somebody wouldn't text me back when I thought they should have texted me back, I was like going off. And that's like, so first of all, you're too old to be doing that. Like, please. Like, and it's the recognition, if this person don't want to talk to you a whole day, they don't have to. So, and so it's not even like, it's learning to not want to control other people or need to control other people, but also recognizing that the only thing that I can really control is my response to things.
Yeah.
And so
do you look at non-attachment and I guess detaching as being the same thing?
No. So detached is like, I have no emotional, like there's no connection here. I'm detaching from that. And non-attachment is like, I can love you with all my heart and still know, like, it will, because I love you, I know that it's important not to attempt to control you. That makes sense.
Do you also like that in your friendships?
I'm actually attempting to implement it within every aspect of my life. So friendships, because I'm the same way. So like if like one of my line sisters doesn't respond, the one that I talk to all the time, and it's like, I'm just like, are you mad at me? Like, what's happening? Like, girl, I'm at work. And so it's like, I'm tired of being that person who like, like, why if those are things that I don't have, I shouldn't have to stress out about. And so if I could do something to reduce the stress and anxiety, then I am going to do it. Also, like, I didn't want to bring it up, but like the election, like my thing is like, I know the world that the country that we were brought up in and the foundations of this country. Nothing surprises me. Nothing. So it's like there's nothing I can do to control what happens in this situation.
Yeah.
But what I could control was like me contributing to the enhancement of the country by, like, for example, voting, or telling my students the importance of voting, but also like telling them the importance of accountability once you vote. Because once you vote, it's still not over. You have to hold people accountable. So yeah, like I'm just trying to be cool with life.
Okay.
I think it's helping me a lot, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's kind of on par with our next question about, so Bree asks, she brings up when Brown frames polyamory as a liberatory practice, and then Schalk discusses how polyamory has been legitimately life-changing for her personal growth, relationship cultivation, and development. What romantic or relationship style do you practice? Have you considered changing your romantic relationship style? And if you have shifted relationship styles, what motivated the change? I'm in a monogamous relationship. A little regular degular.
I mean, I'm also in a monogamous relationship. I feel like the change within that relationship is communication. So, like, even communicating during intimate situations. So, I don't like this. And being accepting of him saying, like, yeah, I'm not
feeling it.
without like judging or without getting upset.
I think that's the natural response. Like, what do you mean you don't like that? So,
So I think for me it's just, but also like recognizing what you want and what you need, because I think we've been programmed and taught to like our whole goal is to make sure somebody else is satisfied. Yeah. And that's not the case. We should fully show up in these situations, and if we can't, then that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Have you considered shifting your romantic relationship style in any way outside of the communication style, more so like the model of it, like monogamy, polyamory, or just some other type of non-monogamous relationship?
No. Like, and I think that's what she said, like in the book, like polyamory and BDSM, those things are not for everyone, but you can use the practices within them. Right. And I wish we would have gone more into like what it means to be within those communities, like what are the ground rules, because they have ground rules. Mm-hmm. And so, but I also think these are things like when you think about a healthy relationship, a lot of the things that we do are not part of a healthy relationship at all. Mm-hmm. And so if changing, like I just want to be able to communicate with my partner and be able to say like, I'm not feeling this situation at all. Yeah. Or I am like, this is the best thing ever. Like, like, so. What about you?
No, I don't. Well, I would say in my present, I've never considered a shift in my current relationship. But like when I was in college, I was pretty much down for whatever. I was like, what you trying to do? I was open to a lot of different things. And I have friends even now, being a part of like different queer communities. I've seen different things, haven't really explored everything too much. But if it caught my eye when I was in school, I was into it. I would try it. But I also wasn't. I think I wasn't wanting to be in a committed relationship of any type when I was in school. So I think that a lot of this is kind of pushing me to understand these relationships just in terms of sexual pleasure and not formal relationships as we think of them. Because I think that may have applied to me in a way when I was like in undergrad and was talking and dealing with different people, if that makes sense. But in my current relationship, no, haven't thought about it. Being a little selfish, I guess.
I don't know. I don't think So I do not believe that non-monogamy is for me. I don't know what the future holds, but I do believe the principles practiced within them are for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we almost out of time. Let's jump to you okay with jumping to strategic celibacy?
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, this section just was really short, but it was yeah, it was good. I liked it. So Brown challenges us to consider nonverbal communication during sex and intimate moments when she writes, quote, "Stop waiting for mouths to say no when bodies already expressed it. How is verbal communication privileged in our everyday lives? How can we begin to decentralize verbal communication with others? And what are some ways you notice nonverbal cues from yourself and others?"
Well, one, I'll say, like, we don't think of those who might be in intimate situations and can't say, you know, they can't verbalize a no.
Mm-hmm.
So, or they might have difficulty, like, yeah, they just can't verbalize how they're feeling. And so I think it is important to recognize that like people, like facial expressions, movement is also equally important.
Mm-hmm. I think back to like the workshops that I had my like first year of undergrad when they were, like the little like welcome week activities, and we had this workshop on consent and rape culture, and they were saying, you always want to get that enthusiastic yes from your partner, and they really pushed that. Like, I remember hearing that all 4 years. That same phrase, you want to hear the enthusiastic yes, but I think this is so important because sometimes you like read the room, like just feel what's going on. I feel like when you are, I would say, when you're really in tune, but if you're just paying any kind of attention, you can tell in a intimate moment or just in, regular moment when somebody is not really feeling it or feeling you, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It doesn't always take them verbalizing it. I think in a way, relying on that verbal communication is a bit, I guess it can be manipulative. Oh, well, you didn't say anything. Or I didn't know. See, you knew, you peeped it.
I mean, you can read people's energy. Yeah. Definitely. And I feel like those who claim that they like, well, you didn't say no, then that is like because you're trying to control that other person because you wanted a particular thing and that person was not trying to give it to you. And so, of course, you're going to ignore it if you're not to a point where you're able to practice consent and understand consent. So, yeah, I mean, and these are things. So, as a director of a women's center, these are like things that I have to think about all the time. I've done trainings on to students, and it's amazing how people are just still so like even the verbal no. It's like to them like, well, they had just said yes though. Like, oh, right. I don't care. I don't care. I don't at all. Not at all. If they move away from you, if their face looks different,
tensing up, like it's different,
right?
These natural body cues that even like we can't fake; they just happen, and you know that means.
Yes. So, yeah.
Well, in what ways do you communicate non-verbally?
So, I mean, for me, like, like even outside of that situation, like outside of intimate situations, like people tell me all the time, like, you don't even have to say a word, like your face tells how you're feeling. And that is the truth. Like I just wear my feelings and emotions on my face.
Okay.
So yeah, that is so like meetings are difficult for me.
Ooh, yeah.
Especially via Zoom, because really all you have is like the face. So I just turn my camera off. Like
I remember like different settings growing up. My mom would have to text me, fix your face. And
yeah,
my boyfriend even
people
does
tell me that.
in school. My friends, if I was doing something, my friends would text me, fix your face. And I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
you don't have to say anything. This is about as good as it's gonna get.
Because I don't just roll my eyes either. It's like often a look of disgust.
Mm-hmm.
Or like a look of like, really? Really? Like, have you seen that Kamala like meme? And it's like these different faces, and it's like, what are you today?
Yeah,
Like,
which mood are you today? Yeah.
all of them.
Right.
I don't know. So
Okay. Ooh, yeah, I feel that. How do your loved ones express their needs beyond words? Did it take a long time to learn their cues and needs? A lot of the Black women that I like, my friends and stuff, my mom, it's all, if we're not saying it, we are expressing it on our face. They would say that I have it the worst, but I feel like I learned it from somewhere, and it's all on us. And I think I don't know, that's something every like Black woman or Black girl heard growing up. Like, fix your face.
fix your face.
Yeah, I think my immediate, like my friends and even my baby, she's little and she can make some faces sometimes. So
Yeah, and I actually don't think it's a learned thing. I think it's just like part of our communication. Like
mm-hmm.
before we're like think of babies, like before they're able to like communicate clearly verbally, their movements are the way that we know that something's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Facial expressions, if there's like if their face is like scrunched up, you know something's wrong. And so those things are the way that we communicate first. I think we like forget about all that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think like I don't know, like I can't even tell you how many times I've been told to fix my face recently.
Yeah.
Recently. And of course people are saying it like to be funny, like, sis, fix your face. Like we'll be in a meeting again on Zoom and I'll get a text from a coworker like, did you really just like, why is your face like that? Because they piss me off. So
Yeah.
like,
I teach high schoolers. So I'm always super aware because I don't want to make a face at a student like, are you serious?
mm-hmm.
I have to check myself. And I think now really I'm becoming more aware of kind of these nonverbal things, even on days when I'm like not really, feeling it. I'm like kind of don't want to be teaching right now. I have to be careful of my energy and what I'm, even though it's virtual, what I'm giving to them, because they pick up on it. And if my mood is anything below like 100, they plummet. So
Yeah. I mean, and when I teach in person, really, because right now it was online. Well, I'm done teaching right now for this semester, but in person, I also feel like it's a performance that I put in my communication. So they don't know there have been a couple of times and it's usually in response to them doing something that I feel is inappropriate or not submitting something on purpose. Or just really not paying attention. And then I like kind of just stop talking and just look at them like, and then they're like, Dr. Carter, are you okay? I don't know. Am I okay? Like,
are you okay?
and I feel like it's actually scary for some people, my facial expressions, but let it be, please.
Mm-hmm.
Take it all in. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like for me, it's a combination of my facial expressions and my like verbal communication.
So then, just saying that, let's see. So she says, be gentle with yourself as you consider Brown's next question at the end of 217, where she says, but I think we all need to ask ourselves, have I been complicit in continuing harmful patterns of sex that blur the line? This question urges a reflection about our individual investments in harmful behavior. What are micro and macro ways we co-create harmful spaces? Do you ask for consent before engaging in physical touch with lovers, partners, and friends? How do you express desire for sex, intimacy, and care? And what behaviors are you committed to shifting to create safer spaces for intimacy and loving?
These are some good questions, actually. So for me, I have actually started to, and I'll be honest, I didn't before, but because of the communities that I'm part of and the work that I do, I ask for consent, even like with my partner, like, it's okay if I give you a hug right now. Because honestly, some people like just want you to sit next to them or stand next to them, not like, if they're having a day or something, like, So, and I'll be honest, I don't do it all the time, but it is something that I'm attempting to do more so. I don't really like hugging other people anyway. So, and people know that about me. So like with other people, there is like the physical touch thing is not a thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I went to a fall festival recently with my friend and his like line brothers, and he was introducing me to them, and I'm already keeping my distance. And they like wanted to hug, and I was like, I'm not a hugger. Also, we're in a pandemic, so. But thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. And even in my relationship, I'm not very touchy. He's the exact opposite. I could go without being touched. I think I'm more aware of, I guess, the ways I interact physically with other people as my baby gets older, because a lot of people are wanting to just touch her and hug her. So I'm actively like making sure that we're modeling the same things at home that I want her to be able to verbalize, around family and friends. Because, I don't want people, if someone is trying to hug her, pick her up and she's not feeling it, she can put it down.
That is such an important point. Oh my gosh. It is like for me, it like just brings up all this stuff about like us believing, well, not you and I, but like folks believing that a child doesn't have autonomy over their own body or bodily autonomy. And the reality is that they do. And I just remember coming up and like my aunts like just used to do this to my cheeks and like, please stop. Please.
But if
that's probably when I started doing this, like, so I don't know, like I think there's some in terms of like consent to touch and children, like there are some control like issues related to power and control and the possession of children. So looking at children as like something that you own instead of, or someone that you own instead of a whole being in themselves that can say, no, I don't want you to do that.
Right. Exactly. And I'm kind of glad that, I don't have to worry about holiday arrangements with all this, with this pandemic. But I'm prepared to, be like, look, don't be kissing her. Don't be touching her like that. Just leave her alone. If she wants you, she will come to you and let you know that she wants to be hugged and picked up or whatever. But I've been very, very aware of it as she's gotten older, and she's still, like I said, she's still little, but it's just like these little cues and these little things that we do at home on a daily basis that will, kind of set the tone for how she interacts with people moving forward.
Yeah. I think it's important that you do that. Like, that it's a wonderful thing that you're like teaching her that this is her body and she has power over her body.
Yeah.
And nobody else does.
Like, right. You're right. So you want to do one more before we wrap up?
Yeah, maybe. Wait, where is it? Yeah, let's see. Maybe the one with the quote from 218.
Okay, towards the end of the section.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says, Brown writes, I've intentionally practiced celibacy a few times in my life and find it to be a glorious way to reconnect with what matters in my body, to slow and deepen my pace and relationships outside the paradigm of desire, to decolonize my longings and remember my sacred sensual self. And then the questions are there moments in your life when you've taken time away from flirting, sex, or masturbation? What motivated these changes? And what lessons did you take away from these experiences?
The most immediate moment would be when I was pregnant. I was like, not like, my body was doing things I just was completely unaware of, like what's going on. I had certain things I expected, that there were things happening that I just didn't feel like should be happening to me. So I was not interested in any type of sexual pleasure. And I was not like masturbating, wasn't really having sex. And of course I wasn't flirting, but there was a time where I feel like I really did get in touch with my body, and I was able to listen to my body more and tell myself and figure out, what am I needing, what am I lacking right now, like spiritually, mentally. I became very aware of my needs outside of an intimate space.
Yeah. So I would say for me, it's kind of similar, but not, because yours was like obviously like this thing that we consider to be wonderful, right? Like preparing to give birth and these things. But mine was like when I got diagnosed with Crohn's. It was only 4 years ago. So, and then recently, probably like 6 months ago, rheumatoid arthritis. So, like the two together. So not rheumatoid arthritis as much, but like Crohn's, because it is like a very personal, like intestinal issue that like just like I lost 50 pounds in like a month and a half. And there's some people who would be like, girl, I wish, but like,
Yeah.
not when it's like, because you can't hold anything down or keep anything in, right? So it's like my body changed. I was sore all the time. I was in pain, nauseous all the time. And when you're feeling that way, you don't want to do any of that stuff. And I was actually, I'm sorry. I was actually, I can't really see me. There we go. I was actually married when I got diagnosed with Crohn's, and ended up getting a divorce. So it's funny. It's funny to me because it's like it was an opportunity for me to grow.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I had,
I was just saying, yeah.
And it's like I had to get in touch with my body because there were so many things changing about my body. And I'll say like after that, I went through a process, like when I started to get better, of like really learning the communication part, right? Like knowing that what is important for me in like intimate situations. And so the lessons, I mean, like our body is always changing. And so I do believe that it is important to do this often. So not just when like there's this major change, like a pregnancy or illness. But instead, like maybe doing it just like as a, you know, like personal retreat to like come back to who you are, like really learn things about yourself again. So yeah, I mean, and I feel better because of it, like in my relationship, in the intimacy within that relationship. So
yeah, that's a good point. It does, like, I feel like it does have the potential to really enhance your intimacy following the period, because it, you know, which is what this section is all about. You just become more strategic about what you're going to engage in and how you do. Yeah. But that's all.
Okay.
This was good. This was fun. So see y'all next time. Make sure y'all tune into the author chat with Adrienne Maree Brown on the 6th. And again, y'all have a good evening.
Yes.
Bye.